Hey, hey, how are you guys doing?
Good. Big Friday night out.
Oh, yeah. Very nice
Cheers,
to see.
cheers,
Salute.
cheers, salud,
Cheers.
skål.
Yeah.
Nice. Trigo, good to see you. You're a mute, man. I see you lips moving.
Franz, nice to see you. Nice to finally see you in person. I
Likewise.
was just mentioning, I can't believe that Swami actually made this call. I've been waiting to meet Swami face to face for like
Yeah,
2-3 months.
I'm gonna make it past 12 a.m. this time. Considering I
Nice.
used to be a nightlife where I didn't leave the house till 12 a.m. Now I can't
Right?
even make it. Oh, that's what happens when you have a baby, right?
Awesome. And lovely
to
to see
see
you
you.
too, Lisa.
Likewise, Trigo. Nice to meet you.
I just want to say that Danny and whoever is involved, these sessions have been, even though I'm only watching the recording, have been very helpful and a godsend, because it's like, it's like it's like having a puzzle set, and then you only have certain pieces of the puzzle, and you put the puzzle, and all these puzzles are missing, and then finally someone finds you the rest of the pieces of the puzzle, and you put it back in, and you go, oh, I finished the puzzle. Oh, great. But I actually have a very, I don't want to hog the session, but separately, I have a very, I have some really good feedback to share, because I just finished a 2-week, it's 9-week certification in data analytics with Wharton, and they hired a company to create the workflow and the systems and the cadence and sequence on how to learn that in 9 weeks, right? And I'm looking at, you've got all these building blocks now, and how do you put them into this sequence, and how do you because quizzes, homework, and it's pass fail, it's not like grades and stuff, but like, how do you get it so you learn in the right way, but also, anyway, I'll say this for another conversation, but
Yeah.
either way, I just want to give Soren, Danny, kudos, and Mark's session has been so helpful, because when you're trying to, this is so complex, and you're understanding this, and you know a bit but you don't know a bit. It's kind of like Chinese, right? If you know like 5 characters, it's kind of useful but useless, but if you know the language, you know it all, right? You know what I mean? So that's kind
Totally.
of what I'm experiencing. So, but
Yeah,
anyway,
thank
thank you.
Please come to our session. We will have, probably after Christmas, we will have our next session on how to put these puzzle pieces all together. And
Yeah.
we call it the journey, but there's not one linear journey, but there can be different journeys. So it's still in the process of how we want to technically, but also content-wise, put it together. And so,
Yeah.
yes, I will definitely keep you in mind to invite you to the session. It's probably going to be in the beginning of January.
Yeah, and if you guys can figure out how to hack the international dateline and change time zones,
Yeah,
then that would be even better.
UTC, Universal
The thing
Standard
is,
Time.
there's also people in the US, so we have
Yeah, no, I know.
the
I'm
24
joking.
hours problem.
No, I understand. I'm just joking. We need to democratize time zones, but I'm just joking.
No,
The recordings are fine, because at least actually
We definitely need to find another balance. I totally see that, because you guys in Asia, you're most of the time in a really like late time zone. That's not fair.
and your mind is fried.
We need to, we will.
But I mean,
figure out
Mark's
how we can
session,
do
you
that
need,
better.
Mark's session, you need to watch 2 times to understand it anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and the idea there is also, that as we kind of have this first batch of people who are trained, similar to this African proverb, each one teach one. So it's all about self-organization and eventually fractalizing this learning so that you can have its own sort of like spread of what you're learning here, and then take it to your own bioregions and let it unfold little by little. And I do love that analogy that you bring, Jason, of this puzzle piece. But the difference is that there is actually never an end to this puzzle piece. It's a constantly living.
That I've understood as well. but also, like, for me, like, I'm feeling far more comfortable and less panicky as before. Like before, I was just so overwhelmed, and I think it's Juice who just kind of helped me understand. Like, you can't make all the calls. You can't make anything. And don't feel guilty about not making calls. Don't try to be in every Discord. Don't try. Yeah, just stick to your lane. What you're comfortable with. What you need to do. And that's made me like feel a lot more comfortable and better. But also I just, slowly, it's like top down, bottom up, learning, with the missing puzzle pieces and then retrofitting the puzzle pieces. And, when you learn to be comfortable at being uncomfortable. So that's even better learning. And what's been great is I've been talking to so many new members and orgs, and, I'm starting to be able to explain it in plumber speak. And when you're able to do that, that means you're starting to understand it. And I'm not using like crazy terminology or like seeds talk, right? Because there's a new language. And when you're talking to someone who doesn't understand seeds talk, they're like, what are you talking about?
100%. And I think, that's a very good thing that you're bringing. That's one of the qualities that I see for us ambassadors going forward, is that we need to be able to learn to talk to all strata of society in all cultures, all the way from, people who are experts in economy, or also people who are simple farmers, or people who are anything in between that. There's this sort of like broad understanding how we're all integral humans and need to have a little bit of understanding of each aspect that makes up our life. And of course, that's a challenge, because we're coming from a world where everybody's specializing in their own little niche and we ignore the whole rest of the picture. So long story short, it's all about expanding worldviews, which is a beautiful mission. It's almost like in this meta level that we're doing ambassador work. And at the same time, we have the tools. And this set of tools are also, have their own complexity to go along with them. They're also ever evolving. We're still finalizing, we're still integrating, we're still kind of weaving them, but at the same time, we're navigating both this world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dynamic living organism that the minute you think you got a grasp, it's changed. Right? I mean, it's evolved for the better.
Yeah. So 100% grasping the ungraspable. That's that state of surrender we need to kind of maintain in. And
it's like unrequited love.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah, falling in love with that uncomfort zone in the edge of the movement, and especially in the edges of the movement. It's also where we are coming into contact with the people who are still perhaps in the old world, and still with a lot of cultural conditioning, cultural programming, derived from financial systems, derived from fear, derived from scarcity. So it's all about, bringing those complex concepts and summarizing it in a way that is very digestible to that individual. And that replicates as a lot of handholding, a lot of handholding. And there's so many nuances to that complexity. If you're talking about organizations that are also comprising of multiple individuals, how do you onboard these? How do you talk to them individuals as well?
But Swami, you've been involved for several months already, isn't that right? Or Ronnie pulled you in pretty early, didn't he?
I've been involved. I was observing for a few months, and then I was involved officially in September. But at that point, I was kind of like, I came in at the complete wrong time, because there was a transition, and there wasn't. So not only that was going on, there was also it was also a time when there was a revamp of a lot of things. So as I was learning, things were irrelevant, and then all of the new stuff that's come on right now, which is amazingly helpful and distilled and clear. It's a godsend, and it's amazing, and I can't wait to see the evolution, because before I was watching like 10 hours of Reiki talking, and I love Reiki. He's a visionary, obviously won't be here without him, but he's not a great communicator. And I wouldn't watch a movie if Reiki was in it. You know what I mean? And I don't mean it as an insult. It's just it wasn't great content. Now, like looking at Soren, looking at Mark, and all, Kayla and all of you guys, Lisa, all you guys working on Soren, creating content that's coming from domain experts who are specializing in what they do, and it's a bit more personal, a bit more interactive, and it's broken down to layman speak or like specific speak. It's much easier to digest, right? And it's also the cadence is better, right? So the once a week, blah blah blah. Whereas like okay, here's a list of videos to watch. It's like, wait, that's 10 hours, like okay. And it was very technical, but anyway, I'm just very. I feel much more confident as the sessions go on.
Nice.
So you're lucky that you came
Awesome.
in this time. So you have all the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, well, I think explaining blockchain is incredibly difficult. And I've been involved in crypto since 2015, just as an investor and as a bystander. But, you know, like how do you, explaining blockchain is a whole new story, and decentralized organizations and all of those things. So it's new to, I think, pretty much all of us, right? Unless you're fully in it. Yeah, I'd love to see, you know, like videos and examples of people explaining it to a farmer versus, you know, your grandma versus a business person. Because it's not, I guess you have to tailor your message, right, to each person and how they what they know of it, how familiar they are with the concepts. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And we definitely had some great examples about that. So we have already, you know, seeds in indigenous communities. We even have cases where individuals who don't know how to read or write are already using seeds, which is also a completely beautiful thing. So not everybody might understand all the implications of what blockchain is and what it entails, but everybody essentially understands trust and what value is. So that's also one of the keys that we need to keep in mind as individuals is, or what we're doing is essentially building trust. And also at the same time, showing individuals and organizations what value is and how they can use seeds for whatever value means to them in their own business models.
Well, it's almost easier entryway to those who don't have that legacy, right? Like Africa with cell phones, and they didn't have payment gateways because you didn't have all these legacy kind of preconceived notions.
Yeah,
right?
less baggage. Totally.
But you know, I don't want to interrupt the session any longer, but you know, yeah, just wanted to.
No interruption. I think this is great. Our idea was to simply hold space and maybe dive in, share some examples, and really try to answer as many questions and tailor them specifically to your needs. So it's all about that. So maybe I suggest we start with a quick round of check-ins so that everybody gets a chance to say hello, maybe share where they're at, and a few sentences on their experience and their ambassador work in onboarding alliances and people, and then we can open up for discussions and examples. How about we start with Fabi? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. I'm mostly listening because as you can see, I'm in the car. We're driving up to the mountains. Nice. So that's, but I still wanted to take part. We are, as you might have seen, we are in close contact with a team called Lightwave and trying to establish a local marketplace here in Zurich for sustainable products and use that basically as possibly as a model or as a pilot to actually bring in seeds into the community. We're also, Martin has already contacted, for example, the community, the Impact Hub. So we're going a bit into that model that has been also suggested by persons such as Trigo and you guys. And yeah, so we're just kind of speaking to people more about not even like specifically referring to seeds yet, more like bringing it in the idea of generally of alternative currencies, of like kind of decentralized governance, that, and I'm still holding up to really bring on alliances that I don't feel are ready to actually also kind of take a little bit of an ambassador role at the start, because I think right now that's a bit of the thing, and I don't feel confident enough yet to really, as we're still on the training, to really bring on other companies as or networks as alliance while I'm still learning myself so much. So that's where we're at. And yeah, I think right now it's going to be a bit of a break anyways before the season, and then we'll continue in the next year. I'm excited. Thank you. So curious to hear where you guys are at. I pass it on to Drigo.
Hi, Fabi. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting that you said mentioned Impact Hub. Impact Hub is one of the companies that I've been most excited about in the last several years, and I was a co-founder of Impact Hub Jakarta. Sold my shares a couple of years ago, but I would love to see an organization like that on board. I personally haven't approached any organizations yet. I've talked to a few folks. I've been introducing mainly seeds to friends and people who I know that are familiar with blockchain and cryptocurrency a bit, and people who are sort of people who I think will understand it and appreciate it. But I think relatively soon, in maybe 2-3 weeks, I'm going to be starting to approach a set of social enterprise leaders and pioneers in Jakarta to see how we might incorporate it into their organization. So not necessarily an alliance, but starting to sort of explore how we can get it into companies and into social enterprises close by. One of the alliances that I'm most excited about on a global level, though, is Impact Hub. Global Eco Village Network would be another one that I'd be super interested in sort of bringing on board. But yeah, it's still too early for me to do that. I think there's still probably some tools and resources that we need with the app and with the website before it's going to be really easy to onboard a bunch of folks. Yeah, other than that, I'm super excited to get on this DHO mission. I know that's coming up soon, but also really excited to take a break over the holidays, as I'm sure you are all too. And that being said, I'll pass it on to Danny.
Thanks, Trigo. Yeah, I traveled today from the north in Germany, in Hamburg, to the south in Germany, in the Black Forest, where I'm born and where my parents still live. And I'm sitting in my old childhood room again. I was here also in the first lockdown in Germany, and now I'm back here for Christmas. And I saw the sun again today, the first time in 3 weeks, which is crazy. So I'm feeling good. I'm really excited about this session now. I might not join the whole time because my parents haven't seen me since I'm here, because I'm only in Zoom since I'm here. So I might join then for an early dinner soon. But before I leave, I just wanted also to say thank you to Lisa and Franz offering their time. I know they're also doing other things in Sweden, and it's really lovely. And that you know that I already talked about the tools and the processes and everything in the last session. So I think everyone is really keen on learning from you guys what's really happening on the ground. And here's some examples from Guatemala or Zimbabwe or something else. So yeah, I'm really excited, and thanks all for contributing to also feedbacks and everything that's regarding the Academy. I think this is the last time before Christmas I can share that. And we will definitely have a session after or in the new year where we will gather more feedback and evaluate and how we can optimize it and structure and blah, blah, blah. So thanks for everyone to show up here. And if we don't see each other again and I drop out early, Merry Christmas. Have a very quiet and silent time. And I love you all. Pass it on to Swami.
Yeah, thank you. So I think two key things that have been really exciting. A friend of mine a couple months ago launched Good Human. Good Human is by a guy named James Glasscock. We had a meeting yesterday with Ronnie and Reiki. He's creating the Amazon of kind of regeneration, sustainability, and consciousness. So he signed on. It's a retail hub with 650 organizations, and each organization is vetted based on their purpose. So that could be an amazing network for a network of networks that we and actually have transactions, because it's a retail product, and that whole network is huge. The other thing that's been really interesting, so a great friend of mine, she was former professor at Stanford Design School, Jenny Stefanati, part of the River Heart crew. I've been telling her about this forever. She started Dent, this group, and every week she hosts these amazing talks with these rock star kind of regeneration people. So, you know, today was Jim Rutt, last week was like John Fullerton, blah, 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 whatever. And it was interesting. I sit in these talks and all they do is talk. And it's amazing. It's all, and they conceptualize the, pontificate. And I've been telling her, hey, there's this really amazing thing that I'm doing. She trusts my music and entertainment and event space, but she doesn't trust my kind of intellectual capacity. sadly. But anyway, because she's a bit of a snob in that way in Silicon Valley. But finally, I got her to convince me. I'm like, look, all you guys do is talk. We've got a product here where people are fucking doing, and there's all decentralized and everyone's doing great things. And the part that I was telling, like, what I love most about Seeds is like, there's a lot of people here I probably wouldn't meet in a normal situation because we're aligned in philosophy and ethos and values, but we might not be aligned socially. But it's beautiful that we're all trying to do this thing together. And so finally she had a call with us, and so that's going to be huge for credibility and kind of this other level of influence. So those are the two main things. But meanwhile, a lot of stuff I put in Work Out Loud, but yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. But I'm going to update my Work Out Loud for more. Yeah. And then I'll pass it to Lisa.
Thank you, Jason. Very excited to be here. I'm doing really well. We're here in Sweden, several hours north of Stockholm, and doing a local activation here. And I guess we're going to go a bit more into detail about that, but everybody who's interested and who has a chance to come here for New Year's, you're very much invited to join us in this light ceremony that we're organizing here and going to be broadcasting with beautiful contributions from indigenous elders from all over the world. So we're also going to be posting the invitation to that sometime soon, I hope, on Discord. And yeah, a lot of the work I'm doing, I think, is global. So there's a lot of local activations happening, which I'm very strongly involved in Liechtenstein, several places in Central America, now up here in Sweden, in a few different locations that we're bringing together. And yeah, I look forward to your questions and then diving a bit deeper. And I'll pass it on to Joachim.
Yeah, hello. Thanks, Lisa. I'm in Brooklyn, New York here. Just came back from a trip to Costa Rica. Lovely country. I've been there many times. Now I'm back into my four walls here. We're closing in on me. It's not, it's a different city, right? Different place. So what I do at Haifa, I'm the product lead for the DO, the decentralized human organization or holonic organism, right? And working closely with our developer folks to build and improve the DO. Current focus is really on getting the instantiation ready. So launching our first child, sister, independent DO, codename Samara, right? Samara DO. There are a lot of questions that have to be answered before we can do this. And the discussions have started. I see Drigo here on the call. I see others. So it's going to be an exciting journey. Lots of input from everybody, I think, that will create sort of a very unique kind of, I see this as an evolutionary step forward, right? So we've created the Haifa DO to create the Haifa organization, now creating this next instance, whatever that is, right? And there's some very good ideas out there. I'll give you one example. I was on a strategic call with Annalise, and she was talking about sort of a metamorphosis model of creating some archetypes to say, how does the next evolution of this thing look like? And we could design it along sort of a pathway to build something beautiful together. So that's about the Samara DO. Other things I'm doing is working on what I call local impact model. That's kind of bringing everybody onto the same table here. So looking at the problem spaces that we have around the planet, and then starting to think about how a collaboratory could look like to create a solution space. How we come together with the Alliance members that you guys are bringing on board, with the knowledge that's coming in from various groups that are joining us, institutions that are out there, with the communities that we're connecting to, right, with the local knowledge that we're bringing in, and with the bioregional aspects of that, right, so preserving, protecting. all of this, I think, together gives us a unique opportunity to jump into these what I call hotspots around the planet and see what we can do, what impact we really can make on one of these regions, right? And then track that, and then look at the stories that are coming out of this and evolve from there, to slowly go around the planet and have more and more of these hotspots evolving and putting out there. So that's my main focus recently, besides some other couple of things: knowledge management, operationalizing the HIFA organization, and a couple of other things. But I'll stop here. Handing it over to who hasn't talked. Let me see. Martina, is that right? Yeah.
Thank you, Joachim. Hey, everyone. Good to see you. I'm still more or less a passive ambassador because I haven't had the time to really focus on seeds. I'm trying to follow the meetings and watching the recordings and taking part of the Zoom meetings as far as I have time. What I'm doing at the moment, I'm really interested in creating a pilot in Germany. So I'm really interested in all the conversations back from Trigo and Irina and Sorin, and I think Fabio are also doing something in Zurich. I think this is a really good and easy step to start something. So I'm more or less in a brainstorming, collecting idea phase for how we could start in Germany. And yeah, that's all. So I pass it on to Tyler.
Thanks, Martina. Hey, everyone. Good to see y'all. Let's see, I'll be brief. Have had a ton of fun exploring this universe over the past couple months and learning what it's going to take to be a decent ambassador and trying to stay up to date with everything on the Discord. I think right now I'm focused on doing a bunch of research into how cryptocurrencies are taxed around the world and how that will play into the work that ambassadors do and potentially I am doing, just so we have insights into that, and what sort of cryptocurrency tax softwares might be helpful for folks to have in their back pocket. And then I've also been hanging around the online community around Joe Brewer as he's starting to set up this regeneration fund in Colombia. And he's trying to raise a bunch of money and exploring what ways seeds can be helpful with that and build some partnership there. And I know there's probably a lot of folks in this universe who already have connections with him, so I want to socialize that a bit more, but he's definitely interested and feels like this is a good time for that connection to be built. So very curious where that goes. Let's see, I will pass it to Victoria.
Hi all, nice to see you here. I think most of you know me, mainly working with the Zimbabwean Circle based in Scotland and trying to, working at the moment to implement the seeds on the ground, how it would work, and working in proposals and try to have with other African countries on their own journey. And hope to start doing something here in Scotland as well, probably early next year. And more or less that's me. And passing on to Sven. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone from Northern California. I hope you're all having a great day. So many exciting things to talk about with seeds, where to start. One thing that I'm really excited about that I haven't really talked about yet on any channels or Discord or anything is the tools that HIFA is creating to create due villages and due instances for all kinds of groups and organizations, community centers, stuff like that is super exciting. I've been thinking about creating community centers for about 10 years now. In small communities where people can come together and self-organize on the local level. And so how we can use seeds and the tools that seeds and HIFA are creating in order to create that grassroots, self-organized, regenerative revolution is something that I'm passionate about and interested in helping to develop with seeds. In my ambassadorship, on the other side, I started out more actively sharing seeds with friends and different people, but I've kind of slowed down on that side, and I'm waiting until I feel like we have a more like context and organization to bring people into seeds and give them the support, or give them like something that they can feel comfortable with, that it's not like, unless they're on Discord, like trying to stay on top of what's going on and be involved, then they don't have a place here. And so I'm also very interested in how we create like more of a self-organized structure. And I think fractal circles can play into that, where we can begin to spin out these little fractal circles that don't have to encompass everything on Discord, everything that's going on, where people can have that small context that they feel like they're staying up with, because they're staying up with a small group of people, they're staying engaged, they're being heard, they're learning, and they're sharing the information that they're getting and learning from the information other people have, and then maybe have somebody involved who's more putting more time in and more advanced, that can answer their questions and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm seeing a lot of potential in, and hope can help people find a context that they feel more secure in moving forward. And I'm looking forward to reaching out in my network and bringing in more people and approaching local organizations and all of that. And excited to be here with you all and working on this dream together. Thank you. And I will pass to Rain.
I'm not sure what we're doing. Sorry, I was late. Are we just checking in?
Quick check-in, and just a little bit about your experience as ambassador and where you are in the journey and what you're feeling.
Okay. So today I just got off a call. Sorry for being late. Good to see each one of you. So let me start with how I'm feeling. I'm honestly feeling very Discord fatigue right now. That's what I'm feeling. That's for sure. And looking for my detox in terms of being an ambassador. I feel like right now I've really got a good grasp of a lot of the different pieces, how to evolve people to citizens. I've been supporting a lot of people in my community doing that already. I did a session with them 2 weeks ago, onboarding my own community members, evolving them through that process. In terms of onboarding organization, I've been quite active in that space. I started off actually working with Franz onboarding organization before I was a formal ambassador already, and continue to do that. I'm supporting CSS in the Fountain right now. The next piece that I'm getting Franz support is to speak to the Queen of Ghana, the Ga tribe. She's open to this to check out seats. And also this school in Malaysia who supports refugee children, also wanting to onboard them and see how we can support their cause, because in Malaysia, refugee children, and they don't, the government do not educate them. So the school that I've been working for more than 10, 15 years now, they do an amazing work. So I want to support them. And the other piece that just popped in, and I'm not sure if this fit, I'm also supporting one of the 13 grandmothers on the side by myself. I mean, not by myself, but supporting her in Nepal. And this question came into my realm this week. Could we do a proposal around supporting her? I'm not sure if that's something like that, because I think she's an elder. I love to support her, and she there's a lot of wisdom in her. I met her 2 years ago, and she's going through dialysis right now, and I'm doing some other things on the side supporting her. And I've just got her granddaughter to sign up on seats and trying to guide them through the process. And with the idea, hopefully, I could write a proposal to support her. But I don't know if that's something that how to do that. I think that I'm also finding myself and where's my space, and I think that's kind of where I'm at. Hopefully that's how I feel. I do want to say one thing, Tyler, thank you for sharing about your note about, some of the things that you pointed out in the Seeds Ambassador. I think that's a priority, and I've been thinking a lot about what you said as well. That's really important to be, how can we be more inclusive of all that, their voices. So, all right, that's where I'm at, and I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet. Sorry for being late.
I think everyone except for Basil and Mark and Irina and Sorin, if I'm correct.
Mark.
Hello, Rain. Hello, everybody. So I am here in North Carolina, and I love the things that are happening in the Seeds Ambassador and community, and I really want it to become a vibrant and a well-supported process so that ambassadors are really effective and know why they're bringing new communities in. So I hope that there are good proposals coming forward so that people can be, feel like their needs are met to be able to do the good work of the ambassadors. So I'm happy to be here and to listen. Thanks, everybody.
Pass it on to.
And I'll pass it on to Basil.
Thanks, Mark. All right, I just woke up, about to head to Oklahoma City to go meet the new executive director of the ACLU, interview her, and that's the American Civil Liberties Union. So I think they'll be quite powerful and important for us as we start to talk about community rights and human rights and sovereignty in America. Yeah, no, just really excited. I'll pass it back to Franz and get into the meeting.
It's just Sorin and Irina. I think you guys are the last ones.
We can make it short.
Yeah, sure. We can make it short. We'd like to hear from you guys more.
More about alliances and bioregions.
Yeah, we are just starting with the work here shortly, so we kind of feel a bit comfortable now to start sharing about seeds with organizations that are more on the regenerative side in Romania, with people around us, with networks that we are connected. And this is one side, and the other side, we started looking at local level, at the village, at the area around us. We are connecting with staff from local scale to see a potential area of working on that side, on creating something on the food exchange and building on that. So we are coming from both sides and see how that works.
Irina had the script, so I have nothing to add. And I will pass it to Franz.
Great, that's amazing. What a fantastic bunch of skill sets and wisdom we have in this group already, covering already the world. So it's very fascinating to stand in front of so much potential. And from my side, also very excited. Currently sitting next to Lisa, also in the north of Sweden, where we're doing a few interesting things that I would love to maybe start sharing with you guys. Maybe that's a good way to enter into this. At the same time, I did take a few notes of some of the questions and comments you guys had, but maybe we can do that on the individual basis later on to dive deep into each of these topics that we bring up. But yeah, so the spirit in all of this is to really help grow the movement, and as we were mentioning, build community, build trust, and that's where it starts. And each of us, in my experience, we all have our own networks, we all have our own expertise, and the easiest way to begin at this is starting with your own network, starting with your own organizations, and building outwards from there. I think that's the most effective. It's not so, I think some people come and they immediately want to take on the biggest organizations in the world, and then only find that that leads to more and more questions, and it gets difficult in that way. And also huge organizations are essentially centralized or decentralized in many ways, so it's also difficult to get huge organizations to jump on board like that, and one of our immediate strengths that we have with seeds is to unite all the little guys. And that's also where the power comes in this unification of the small guys weaving together into a whole that is more than the sums of each individual. And that's kind of where we've been focusing on. And in this almost 1 year, more than 1 year since we've launched the Global Passport, I can say, as a little bit of a summary, we have at least 450 organizations that have one way or another signed up to join this movement. And of course, there's also a lot of nuances in terms of what signing up means. So it could be that they've signed the pledge. It could be that, that we've been talking to them. And for example, right now, we just had a call this morning with the Swedish Development Agency, and they're, for example, fascinated, mind blown with what we're doing, and they want to help. But of course, it takes a while to say, yes, we can put the Swedish Development Agency stamp into our publication. So it's always this journey of trust building until we can really start materializing the next levels of it. But it always helps to, wherever we have the chance to have an opening, to start having those conversations, and little by little weave them in. Ideally, what we would really like to achieve here is to bring these organizations onto the blockchain, and that's where our hand-holding comes in. So at this stage, while we have already the full functional tools of what the passport is, so essentially help them out in create their organization account, at the same time help in helping them understand what an alliance share is, helping them create that based on the previous examples that are already there, which are found in the co-op, and at the same time helping them facilitate towards the first step into receiving their liquid seeds in campaigns. And for campaigns, there's also already some great models out there. But in general, the idea that how I perceive it is essentially what we're doing is creating micro incentives towards regeneration. So really identify in different communities the different purposes that there might be, and really bring as many organizations as a network in order to sustain already an economy within that. So that's also one of the keys, and it's not so straightforward, but to be able to really at this stage disseminate and seed the economy and allow people to understand that what the value of seeds is as a token, and not really fall into the trap of comparing the US dollar and the current valuation in terms of that, because that normally falls into complexity, but really finding the ways to provide incentives towards that goal, which is regeneration. And that regeneration being the overarching goal, there's also different sub goals within that one can focus. So as you guys also will know, one of our first focus in that regeneration is food. So maybe I would like to share two main examples in combination with Lisa around food. And the two main examples that we like to choose are two very extreme examples. So for example, Liechtenstein in one hand, which is a microstate, technically the richest country in the world per capita, doubly landlocked in the center between Austria and Switzerland. And the other example, we could go to something more tropical, something more culturally diverse. We could do either Guatemala or Costa Rica. So those would be my suggestions. I don't know if that sounds good.
Great to me. Fabi says yes as well, and I think she just showed us the Liechtenstein mountains where she's driving by, or somewhere close by.
So yeah, maybe a little bit towards what we're doing in Liechtenstein. So essentially what we're doing is creating a multi-stakeholder network. The idea is to get all the stakeholders into one table and really envision a preferred evolution of the state of the region. And we also chose Liechtenstein as a very fertile ground for this because it's a microstate. So at the same time, there's a lot of advantages that one can pitch to a microstate for being a first adopter into this new world. And it's been effective so far. So we're right now in touch with members of the national government. We're also in touch with members of the municipalities. And what we're also weaving together is this local food economy, which, given the whole COVID situation, it's also been a very timely discussion to have, where the average Liechtensteiner who is relatively well off usually goes shopping somewhere outside Liechtenstein to either probably Austria because it's way cheaper, and to kind of save a buck there. But with this lockdowns and everything, even the borders were closed. So as a doubly landlocked nation who already has relatively high organic food production, the idea or the resurgence there came back to consume local and produce local. So what we're also doing is weaving in the existing garden cooperatives and identifying people who have gardens and empty space that would love to open up a community. And we're bringing them all together into the same table, and right now defining rewards for each part of the local food economy, meaning that one of our proposals to the government right now is to define that, for example, if the government creates a pool to back up the seeds currency to provide liquidity to the people who are wanting to participate to this local food economy, that they are able to do so, and that each individual would have a opportunity to participate in their local food economy and be rewarded from it in seeds, and with the idea that eventually a fund from the government would be able to buy back seeds. So it's very exciting, because we also think that if this model goes live in a place like Liechtenstein, which is in the bioregion of the Rhine Valley, which unites 4 different countries, Austria, Switzerland, and Germany, and also has this very strong democratic approach into doing things, then it could be a good epicenter for this culture around local organic food to unfold. So that's where we're at right now, where we are creating this funnel to allow individuals and organizations to sign up. We're categorizing these contributions and ways to contribute, and right now are in the stage of defining those value exchanges. So that's one really kind of brief overview of that bioregion. And in Guatemala or in Central America, I don't know if you guys had the chance to see the proposal to regenerate Central America, which is something that we had been working on for quite some time. And I think, Tyler, you mentioned about Joe Brewer. So Joe Brewer was actually part of co-creating on that while he was working with the University of International Cooperation in Costa Rica, and with the Regenerative Communities Network. But he had a little bit of a confrontation there, and then he went onward to Colombia. So there's also a little bit of that that's happening. But anyways, it would be wonderful to get Joe on board. And I've already reached out to him a few times, and he knows what we're doing, and we're essentially waiting for him to take the next step. So if you can also facilitate that, by all means, that would be great. But in Central America, we have also a very interesting approach where we have, in one angle of things, Guatemala, which is the bioregion or the country where I was born, where we had this bioregional ambassador program. So I know already a whole bunch of organizations there working in the regenerative space. And the approach there was to really find these key regenerators, or in other words, ambassadors, to focus and bring a fractal team to design what their preferred vision for the socioeconomic development of their community might be. And the first focus around that was food. So one of our starting points there was to bring in a network of around 7 people. And once they have their vision, they can then request from the seed bucket that we have there, and as initial 50,000 seeds to make that idea come to fruition. And one of the most interesting models that we have found there is this concurso campesino, which I don't know for you guys who speak Spanish, but it's like a farmer competition. And the idea, what we're doing there is to diversify food production. So we have this role of a cross-pollinator in indigenous communities that serves as sort of like the validator, or we call it a cross-pollinator. And this person goes around the community, around different families in that small village, and has a sort of like a report card where, based on the diversification of product that are produced, whether it's medicinal plants, whether it is an array of different foods that are produced in a regenerative way, each family on a lunar cycle basis receives a score. And based on that score, they receive a seed reward to that. So what we're doing there is essentially incentivizing people to be more food resilient. And what that enables, if you do that across a small village or community in a world where right now also, given the whole economical shutdowns where there is no currency to exchange, it's been a very interesting success, because once you stimulate or supply a community with currency for creating value around food sovereignty, then you also have the currency for them to exchange that food. So that's actually uplifting the entire well-being of the entire community little by little. And now they're very excited. Now they're also even wanting to form their own market in the bigger towns, and also start kind of funneling people towards adoption in seeds. And it's going back to what I was mentioning before, it's been very fascinating, because it's, for the most part, these are people who don't even know how to read or write, but they're already there understanding that this is value and that they're able to exchange food for those seeds. And then the next level is that they're also adding other approaches to more of a whole system design to development. So they're also already very excited to introduce, for example, energy production systems, where we've introduced them with some micro hydroelectric energy production systems. And they're right now self-organizing to mobilize around the community to determine what would be this ownership model where a community would own such an infrastructure. And in parallel, we're also figuring out for other organizations who would also serve as a provider of funding to allow to purchase that infrastructure while we start building these tools technologically, which is always our little bit of the delay that we have all of these tools, but for now we're using the global passport and the seed slide wallet. So we're very excited to also activate this village DHOs and these other instances to allow a further integration for more communities. And as that happens, then I think it's going to continue accelerating even faster. But that's a little bit of a quick overview from my side in terms of those two things. Or maybe do you want to share a bit of Costa Rica, perhaps?
Yeah, I can do that. So in Costa Rica, interestingly enough, we had already been in conversation through the Regenerate Central America program with the University for International Cooperation, with several organizations there to start organizing and see how we can start in Costa Rica itself. And then through what happened this year, Costa Rica basically closing down and no tourists coming, about 40% of the workforce of Costa Rica was without a job and without any income. And these people were all dependent on tourism and didn't know anymore how to produce their own food. So we're also dependent on this income in order to be able to survive. We've seen several examples of people buying food for the communities around them if they could afford it, but that's also not a very sustainable approach. So it actually accelerated the communications that we were we had started there with the different organizations. And we've been supporting the university there in going ahead and launching several pilot programs, so several pilot communities where we created how do you say, these programs for a few people from each community to learn how to do urban gardening, and also in some cases to do larger gardens and farms. And we managed to get support from different organizations for the tools and everything that was needed to build these farms, and have been through this whole time, through the education process, the learning process, also been able to already incentivize the people with seeds who went through this process of learning. Then in Costa Rica, we're also talking to the government, and they're very interested in bringing in a certain amount of seeds and then underlaying that with the national currency, with colones, in order to give a certain value to the seeds there and make sure that they can also be used in circular economies in these communities. And that also means that Costa Rica won't have to print any more national currency, as a lot of other countries are doing at the moment. Big example is the US. And that will also mean for the future that the national currency in Costa Rica is not as devalued and will be able to stay stronger for the future. And yeah, do you have any more details?
Yeah, one little detail there is, so we were talking to the central government right before COVID happened, and then they got distracted with the whole COVID situation. And to fill that gap, we have the founder of Wix.com, who then jumped in to provide a pool to back up the seeds economy. So it's still on that process of being woven together, where we're right now waiting for this ATM solution, so that it's not one guy trying to exchange seeds for fiat, but the funding is essentially there for us already to start already exchanging and giving this collateral effect to the seeds economy, which is a very powerful way to earn trust, especially for the people who are still under pressure for receiving liquidity to pay their day-to-day life, and also then having an option to keep seeds as they realize that it's an appreciating currency there. Yeah, it's a little bit of a general overview, and we would also love to share with you guys this report, or where the plans are. For example, we have a roadmap to make Costa Rica the first regenerative nation, where we already mapped out 40% of the national territory that is already defined for regeneration. That is also the central government is already on board to enable that. But yeah, I'm realizing that we're already almost at the top of the hour, but I want to open up for questions and comments and different other aspects of what you might need. Any questions out there? Or immediate reactions?
I'd say that. Oh, go ahead, Fabi.
I'm very interested in how you approach the governments, actually, and with what kind of arguments you convince them to take part in seeds. It seems, yeah, that's because I'm also closely working both with the city government, but also sometimes with the national government, and that would be very interesting to get them on board. And how do you do that?
That's a great question. Yeah, there we also got a little bit lucky. So I had already been working with the government of Costa Rica before, so also through the work of Edward Müller, and we were already in that regenerative space. And then as all of this then crystallized forward, especially right now in the times of Corona, it's even easier to argument. So essentially one can one can assume that governments really don't want their people to suffer. But at the same time, every government needs to provide economic stimulus. But then the question that each government is having right now is, should we print more currency and devalue our entire economy? Or do we find, and then we offer here a completely alternative solution where a government can still provide that economic stimulus that they might need, and even create models where some of that value is flowing back. For example, if a government is buying back seeds. And at the same time, another beautiful way to pitch it is the regenerative development value that is increased, that you're increasing essentially resiliency, you're increasing health, you're increasing, for example, in Costa Rica, biodiversity, which is their entire model of a nation state, that's how they attract tourism, and that's how they create a successful economy, especially in the context of Central America. And they have already seen those benefits through tourism, which also increase the quality of life of their people. And another layer to this is that, for example, regenerative products, whether they might be agriculture or anything else, for example, artisan work, they are more ethical, but at the same time have more nutritional quality in terms of food. So therefore, they also demand a higher market value. So for them to invest in these things as a government is something that we can easily pitch of something that will pay off going forward. And another easy kind of sales pitch right now is that what we're seeing right now globally is a global financial meltdown. And what we're offering governments to do is a chance to sustainably transition. And that is a very strong argument. It's just a matter of which person you're talking with and how to really bring that conversation to fruition.
I need to jump.
I also would need to jump. I have my next call right now, but I am aware we have a few more questions. So maybe we could reschedule this, or if you guys have more individual questions, you can also reach out directly. How does that sound? Written case studies for this regenerative way to introduce seeds to governments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a fascinating topic to get into, approaching like city governments or other regional governments, small country governments, and how to approach that. And like getting a city on board with seeds, it seems like maybe there's conflict because they're going to have trouble collecting sales tax when seeds are used, but maybe how to bridge that gap. And you brought up a lot of great points about how there is a lot of incentive there. So that's like a whole maybe topic of a whole Zoom call or something like that sometime.
I would love to join that. And we have very beautiful examples. For example, right now, the work we're doing in Sweden, with this call with the Swedish Development Agency this morning. And also last week, we just wrote a letter to the former Prime Minister and to the former Minister of Agriculture. And the idea there that right now, without even mentioning seeds, but we were just mentioning that the community needs an economical stimulus. So what we're also right now planning to package there is that if we can gauge the level of potential for seeds in an economy, especially right now that all of these people are suffering in many ways, you can go to a government and say, here, we as seeds will be able to already have gauged, I don't know, 10,000 people or 10,000 small, medium enterprises. And from then on, offer them a sort of like the taxation from the harvest that will be there. So already before even we start things, we can already come with a package where we're giving them that value. So that could be a very interesting conversation to have and really frame it for different scales of living, as you mentioned, village, city, nation state, or multiple nations as well.
Excellent. Great.
Sorry, guys, I am being called right now, but lovely to be here with you guys, and thank you guys for your ears and your attention. And hopefully maybe in, I don't know, next week or right after early January, we would be able to have another one. But in the meantime, feel free to reach out.
And
Thank you.
And we wait in the another
you.
proposal nursery if you want.
Sounds good. See you guys. Ciao.
Bye.